Not every book I finish is a favorite, but every book I finish gives me something. A thought, a reaction, a reason to say more. Welcome to Collected Chapters, where I share it all. The good, the bad, and the deeply unhinged. So settle in, loves. This chapter is just the beginning. Hi loves, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Cammy and welcome to Collected Chapters. On this episode, I only have about 3 books to review, so let's get into it. For our first book, we have Change of Pace by Kayla Gross. This book follows our main character Jessie, who after a life-changing diagnosis and an ICD implant, is determined to live life boldly. So she comes up with a plan to create a bucket list, already checking off her first item, a no strings attached one-night stand. The night is everything she hoped for until she finds out that her hookup is no one other than her brother's best friend, Asher Jameson. When said best friend suggests a road trip for Jessie to knock off the rest of her bucket list items before her new job starts, Asher happily offers his RV up for the ride. However, as Jessie chases Rose out of chaos, she starts to wonder if all dreams are meant to come true, even the unexpected ones. Now that this book was really great, I felt it to be truly inspiring, especially when it comes to Jessie and her journey with Kawasaki disease and an ICD implant. I really hope I'm pronouncing her, I don't want to call it illness, but her condition correctly. I feel like this is one of those books that make you think about your dreams and whether you're actually going for them or sitting still. I found Jessie and Asher as a couple to be really cute, and I love how they made space for each other's fears when it comes to, again, Jessie's condition. And if I'm not mistaken, Asher suffers from anxiety and Jessie was super patient when it came to that for him. I also really love Jessie's determination to live her life boldly and to not let her illness or condition define who she is and how she has to live or view life. Jessie's life also mirrors our author Kayla Gross's life a little bit because she's also someone who has Kawasaki disease, and I thought that was a really sweet touch for her to allow us a glimpse into what her daily life looks like with that condition. And so I hope she knows what a gift that she's given readers to see that part of herself within her story, and I think she did an amazing job at touching the reader's heart with that aspect. 5 stars. The next book on our list is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. In this book, we follow our main character Naomi, a runaway bride who comes to the rescue of her estranged twin sister Tina. But instead of a family reunion, she finds herself stranded in a strange town with no money, no car, and an 11-year-old niece she had no idea about. This is where Knox Morgan comes to play, the town grump who prefers to stay to himself and out of other people's business, especially a woman like Naomi. But since her life literally implodes in front of him and tears are his kryptonite, the least he can do is lend a helping hand. The quicker he gets her settled, the quicker he can go back to his normal life. At least that's what he thought. Before picking up this book, I came across a review that states it read like a telenovela, and I couldn't agree more because there was something new and exciting happening each chapter, and I was genuinely entertained the whole way through. I didn't think I would like it originally because the writing style felt a bit awkward and quirky, but it was strangely addictive in the sense that I couldn't put it down. I love Naomi and her character development. You really see her people-pleasing nature on full display in this book, especially in the way that she tries to rescue and fix Tina's mistakes, not only with the town and her parents, but really with her niece Waylay. She constantly bends herself backwards trying to avoid adding more mess or chaos into other people's life, and that is a big part of her character arc, realizing that she doesn't have to do that alone or carry that weight alone, and that she's not responsible for everything Tina did. Now with Knox, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with. He completely pissed me off in the beginning with his whole asshole for no reason gimmick, but once I got a sense of where his hardness came from, it made his behavior a bit more tolerable and easy to understand. This is a man who has seen what love can do to a person once you lose it or it falls apart, and you could tell he was trying to keep Naomi at arm's length in order to protect himself. Now there is a dreaded third act breakup, but I deem it necessary because it allowed Knox to see that losing Naomi and Waylay would hurt way more than allow himself to fall in love. Speaking of Waylay, I love her so much. That baby has been through it, and watching her get her happy happily after and her found family was the reason why this story touched me the way it did. Lucy Score says in her artist note that as soon as she finished this book, she broke out in tears, and honestly, same, because I'm a sucker for cheese. This book was so full of heart and drama and healing, and it kind of felt like stepping into a town where everyone is a bit broken, but that didn't stop them from showing up for one another and being there when it really mattered. If I had to describe this book's setting to you, I would say it's a mix of Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls and Serenity, South Carolina from Sweet Magnolias. 5 stars. The last book on our list today is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This book follows Danica Brown, a woman who knows what she wants. Academic achievement, career success, romance? Absolutely not. But a woman has needs, so she asks the universe to send her the perfect friends with benefits. What she didn't expect was it to be Zafir and Snart, the security guard at her job. After Zav saves her from a routine fire drill gone wrong, Danny takes it as a sign from a divine goddess that they're destined for each other's sheets. But before she can explain that fact, a video of the heroic rescue goes viral, and now half the internet is shipping them as hashtag Dr. Rugby. And Zav is begging Danny to play along. Why? His sports charity for kids could really use the publicity. So Danny comes up with a simple plan. Fake a relationship to the public and have some friendly fun behind closed doors. However, Zav is determined to break down Danny's walls and show her that love doesn't have to be complex. Now, my review for this book is going to be a bit long and spoilery, so if you haven't read it, I suggest skipping to the end, or if you don't care, let's get into it. Now, I love Danny. I thought she was super confident, witty, smart, and charismatic. She was a joy to read, not only in her own book, but in her older sister Chloe's book, and I'm sure she'll be the same way in Eve's book as well. I also love Zav. There is a big plus for me when an MMC is very in tune with his feelings and emotions, and I think that describes him to a T. He's bookish, he reads romance books, he's a hopeless romantic, he takes mental health seriously, he's a family man, and he gives off black cat energy, but he's very soft for Danny. Literally everything a book boyfriend is supposed to be. But with all the likes out of the way, the biggest issue I had with this book was the third act breakup. The conflict occurs after this very important scene where Danny is on a panel with her idol, somebody she has always looked up to. And if you don't know, Danny is a self-proclaimed witch, so she lights the candles for whatever goddess she believes in. She carries the crystals with all the different meanings, and the way that she justifies her and Zav's situationship is that her goddess literally sent him to her as the perfect friends with benefits situation, which is relevant to what I'm about to say, so keep that in mind. But during this panel, Danny asked her idol, how is it she got to where she is today? And the answer is simple but impactful. She held on to the little things that brought her joy and didn't lose herself in her work. And in that moment, it clicks for Danny that Zav is her joy and that she loves him even if she doesn't know how to show it or she's afraid to admit it, and she thinks that at this point in time she's ready to take this more than a fake relationship. So she goes to him in a very Danny way, admits to him that, maybe I am ready for something more than, again, a fake relationship, and that even if I don't know how to express my emotions or express love, I'm willing to try if you are willing to try and give me time. And Zav, being the romantic that he is, immediately reassures her that they can take baby steps and he'll wait as long as she needs, no hesitation. But then less than 12 hours later, they're in an argument and then they break up. What happens at that point is that they're having this really intimate conversation about their past and what led them to the way they view love and relationships now. For Zav, he's opening up about the death of his brother and his father and how that grief really pushed him to take his mental health seriously, and then in turn pushed him to open up his sports charity for kids. For Danny, it's a past relationship that ended badly that made her believe she's incompetent when it comes to love and that she cannot provide the type of care, attention, or intimacy one may expect from her. And then Zav, who I know meant more good than harm, loves bombs her, and I don't like using the term love bomb in terms of his character because we've already established that when he feels so deeply and his emotions are already, very out there. But in his attempt to comfort Danica, he basically tells her, I don't see you as incompetent. I don't see you as someone who needs to be fixed. I love you for who you are. And that's his confession, that what they have isn't a beginning of a fling or a beginning of a real relationship, that he's already in love with her. The problem is Danny is just opening up to the idea of love. So that confession sends her into this anxiety and panic-induced spiral. She tells him that, there's no way that you can love me already. You're lying. We just agreed to be together. And in that panic and judgment clouded moment, she picks up her things, she leaves, and they don't speak to each other for an entire 4 days. And that to me felt absolutely unnecessary. Now, I want to be clear that Danica's emotions, specifically her panic or anxiety, are absolutely valid because you do not get to pick what your brain chooses to spiral over. I just wish we could have had this conversation in a more mature and calmer way. For context, the book is 360 pages long, and the conflict literally happens within the last 60 pages. And so instead of a device to build their relationship, it felt like a way to drag the story out because maybe the author didn't know how to end it properly. Danny's fears, hesitation, and concerns deserve proper space to be talked through, the same way Zav's grief and how he's learned to cope with his emotions deserve the same space. These are two very grown and smart individuals, and so instead of sitting down and having this one deeply, maybe uncomfortable conversation that I know that the both of them are capable of having, it felt a little immature to have it dragged out in a 4-day silent treatment. I also think this conflict kind of contradicts Danny as a character because the Danny that we see at the beginning of the book is very different from the Danny that we see during the breakup. Danica is described to be very thoughtful and analytical and someone who takes her time with her research and her analysis. So the fact that it doesn't seem like she can have such an anxiety-filled conversation or moment or sit through that, which I know she can, just didn't add up for me. And I'll admit that Zav telling Danica that he, madly in love with her 12 hours after she asked for baby steps would have sent me spiraling too, because that is not a baby step. Danny definitely needs time to sit with her emotions and learn what love looks like for her or how she can better express it, because she's not as open with her feelings as Zav is. But again, I just think the 4-day separation was very dramatic for no reason. I also fully understand where Zav is coming from because he's a character who has spent time with his depression and anxiety, and he has learned that keeping those emotions bottled up is not healthy for him at all, and it's best for him to lay out all those things on the table. So I don't fault either character here for their behavior or technically how they reacted. I guess my biggest issue is just where Talia chose to place the conflict within the story, because again, instead of it being a device to drive these two characters closer, again felt like a very dragged out way to end the book. With all that being said, they do end up together, and I did find them to be a cute couple. I just wish we would have got more moments where we saw them finding a common ground when it came to their relationship. Instead, we only got a little bit of it in the epilogue, and it was implied that a common ground was found. But I don't think the third act breakup took away from the joy that I felt reading the story, and I am super excited to continue the series. 4 stars. Those are all the books I have to review for you on this episode of Collected Chapters. If you have read any of these, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have made it to the end of the video, let's leave some blue and yellow hearts. I will see you all in our next episode, but until then, happy reading.